We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Donald Trump ahead of Kamala Harris in the US polls, counting with 279 versus 223, set to become the 47th president of the United States. Trump addresses supporters at his campaign headquarters in Florida, says we'll make America great again.
Help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates Donald Trump, says, let's work for betterment of our people. Well, on to the top story this hour. Donald Trump claimed a victory and pledged to heal the country on Wednesday as results put him on the verge of beating Kamala Harris in a stunning White House comeback. His exuberant speech came despite the fact that only Fox News had declared him the winner, with no other U.S. networks having made the call so far. As jubilant supporters cheered and chanted USA, Trump took to the stage at his campaign headquarters in Florida along with his wife Melania and several of his children. In his victory speech as the United States presidential election results became clear, Donald Trump said that he believed this was the greatest political movement ever. He also thanked Americans for electing him the 47th U.S. president and vowed that this will be the golden age of America.
Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends in this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Well, Trump also highlighted Republicans' extraordinary win in the swing states.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day, I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
Well, Trump said that it was America's powerful mandate that Republicans have taken control of the U.S.
The battleground states of North Carolina, I love these places. Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. We are now winning in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska, which would result in us carrying at least 315 electoral votes. But that But it's much easier doing what the networks did or whoever called it, because there was no other path. There was no other path to victory. We also have won the popular vote. That was great. Very proud of that.
Well, he also congratulated U.S. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, calling him a man with courage.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good. And the Senate races in Montana, Nevada, Texas, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, were all won by the MAGA movement. They helped so much.
Well, DT India's Amritpal Singh reports from Palm Beach, where Trump delivered his victory speech. Let's listen in.
A victory party, or the election watch party as it's known, of Donald Trump is taking place here inside the convention center. While there are huge crowds inside the convention center to listen to Donald Trump, but even as he speaks live out on the streets here, there is a festive mood. There are people who have gathered, primarily Republican supporters who have gathered. It is their moment of joy. It is their moment of victory, as American networks have now called in the U.S. election in favor of Donald Trump.
It was the most amazing experience of my life. The energy in that room cannot be matched by anything else. It was awesome.
We finally have someone who will take responsibility for his actions.
The last 4 years have been so horrible for the average American, with the rising inflation, with these wide open borders and the safety concerns, with the downfall of our education system, already worse, in a worse space than it was, 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago. Like, we're not seeing the changes that we expected to see.
It's been a really, really long and tough campaign for Donald Trump and his running mate, and it has finally come to fruition, which the Republican supporters are enjoying to the hilt. With cameraman Sanjay Jena, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India at West Palm Beach.
All right. Also, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Donald Trump on his historic election victory. PM Modi wrote on X, and I quote, that he looks forward to renewing our collaboration to further strengthen the India-US comprehensive global and strategic partnership. Together, let's work for the betterment of our people and to promote global peace, stability and prosperity, unquote. Well, the world leaders are sending congratulations to President-elect Donald Trump following his victory over Vice President Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential election. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer extended his congratulations for his election victory after the Republican claimed a victory in the U.S. presidential election. Taking to X, Starmer said, and I quote, "Congratulations, President-elect Trump, on your historic election victory. I look forward to working with you in the years ahead. As the closest of allies, we stand shoulder to shoulder in defense of our shared values of freedom, democracy, and enterprise. From growth and security to innovation and tech, I know that the UK-US special relationship will continue to prosper on both sides of the Atlantic for years to come," unquote. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also congratulated Donald Trump on winning the U.S. presidential election on Wednesday, saying the two countries would continue to work together to benefit their citizens. He said, and I quote, "I congratulate Donald Trump on his election as U.S. president. For a long time, Germany and the U.S. have been working together successfully, promoting prosperity and freedom on both sides of the Atlantic. We'll continue to do so for the well-being of our citizens," unquote. And European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also offered well wishes, calling the US and EU more than just allies. She said, and I quote, "I warmly congratulate Donald J. Trump. The EU and the US are more than just allies. We are bound by a true partnership between our people, uniting 800 million citizens. So let's work together on a strong transatlantic agenda that keeps delivering for them," unquote. Meanwhile, NATO chief Mark Rutte congratulated Trump, noting the alliance's commitment to increased military spending. He said, and I quote, "I just congratulated Donald Trump on his election as President of the United States. His leadership will again be key to keeping our alliance strong. I look forward to working with him again to advance peace through strength through NATO." And Cedric Richmond, Harris campaign co-chair, tells a watch party at Harvard University in Washington that Kamala Harris will not address her supporters on election night. Her campaign said after Donald Trump pushes closer to victory in the 10th U.S. presidential vote. Crowds of Harris supporters dispersed from Harvard University after the announcement that her speech would be delayed until the following day. And Donald Trump has won the U.S. presidential election, returning to the White House for the second term, having been voted out of office in 2020. And as the world wakes up to Trump victory, we talk to DW correspondent Arthur Sullivan to assess how Europe is reacting to the result. Well, how's Europe reacting to Trump's stunning victory now that the results are very clear?
Well, you went through very helpfully there some of the different leaders' reactions. I mean, you talked about the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. French President Emmanuel Macron has also extended similar sort of tone in terms of his congratulations. And what we're seeing with a lot of these messages, whether it's from Olaf Scholz or Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, I would say it's somewhat muted congratulations to Trump, but also very much emphasising the strong bonds between the EU and some of these nations and the US, whether they're economic ties. Certainly Ursula von der Leyen, EU Commission President, emphasised those economic ties very strongly in her congratulations. Also, all the leaders emphasising, the deep military and political cooperation that the US and the EU have had, and Europe, in fact, as a whole have had, as part of NATO, that military alliance, for 75 years. So I think it's important to add that in a lot of these messages, the tone is very much one of acknowledging Trump's victory and indeed doing something that Trump himself was unable to do in 2020 when he lost to Joe Biden in the election. He still can't accept that defeat, still doesn't acknowledge it. A lot of his supporters don't. And I think these leaders are making a point of saying, we're Democrats, we do that. We acknowledge defeat in an election when it happens. So I think there's a little bit of a message there. It's also important to note that a lot of Europe's far-right leaders, whether that's Viktor Orban in Hungary, Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, Giorgia Meloni in Italy, and indeed here in Germany, Alice Weidel of the Alternative for Germany, the AfD, they've all extended much warmer congratulations to Donald Trump, even talking about their common interests with his movement.
Well, Arthur, contrary to the results, if you talk about why were the EU and most European leaders hoping for Harris' victory?
I think there's two big reasons why there probably was a widespread hope that Harris would win. One is economic. Trump made it very clear that, if he were to be returned to the White House, he would be bringing in a significant tariff regime, including for, the EU and other parts of the world, 10 to 20% on all imported goods. He also talked about bringing in a 100% tariff on car makers. So that would be, for a country like Germany, hugely damaging. Germany exports around 400,000 cars to the US a year that are made in Germany, by far its biggest market. If they had to be charged at 100% extra within the US, well, that would be devastating for an industry that's already struggling. So that's one big reason, economic. And the other one, which I've already touched on, is NATO, support for NATO. Trump has, of course, made it very clear down the years that he doesn't like the extent to which the US bankrolls NATO, accounting for 2/3 of its budget. He doesn't think other NATO members pay enough. He has also made it clear that he would not be willing to continue the same level of support for Ukraine. And so these are real concerns that European leaders have around his commitment to both Ukraine and NATO. And it goes without saying that Kamala Harris was very different on both these key issues. She certainly wasn't talking about levying tariffs on the EU, one of the US's most important strategic partners, and had reiterated time and time again her staunch support for NATO and indeed for continued support of Ukraine. So I think they're the two big reasons why European leaders would have preferred to see Harris, or certainly most European leaders would have preferred to see Harris prevail.
Well, Arthur, marking their differences, will they be now able to find a way to work with Trump on the key issues?
Well, I think they've no choice. They absolutely have to. And we see that as well in a lot of their messages. Their swift congratulations to Trump. At the end of the day, this is international diplomacy. This is international politics. You have got to work with other nations. And the reality is, regardless of who's in the White House, regardless of who's in office in certain European countries, these countries' ties, political, economic and otherwise, go back centuries. They're extremely important. They will endure beyond whoever's in office at a given time. And so it goes without saying, the work of these politicians is to maintain those ties. So they have to find a way. Another important point to add, there's been a first Trump term. They had 4 years of dealing with Donald Trump before. They weren't prepared that time. They really ought to be a little bit better prepared this time. They should know how to work with him a little bit. And I think there is an expectation that while there is anxiety, serious anxiety around some of the issues I've mentioned, that the work has been done in preparation for a second Trump term and that they will, at least to some extent, be able to work with him on some of these vital issues.
All right, Arthur, thank you so much for all those input. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. We'll show you snow-capped peaks of Mount Fuji after its longest ever stint with bare slopes. And India's External Affairs Minister interacts with members of Australia-India Parliamentary Friendship Group.
As our ecosystems change, we not only need to amplify our efforts to save them, but we also need to adapt our lives.
Today, everything grows here. At an altitude of 5,000 meters, we grow mushrooms, strawberries, watermelon, and tomatoes. It's been made possible by the introduction of technology.
It's like with stocks. You diversify your portfolio to minimize risk. That's what we're trying to do with the mixed forest, too.
People's mindset is changing in favor of electric mobility, and I see huge success in the future as well.
Same eelgrass is one of the most important elements in the ecosystem along the Baltic Sea coast. It produces oxygen and provides habitat for smaller fish.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Vipakshi Khurana, and moving on, the relationship between Donald Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is often described as a personal and strategic partnership shaped by both the leaders' personalities, shared popular appeal and alignment on key geopolitical priorities. Over the course of Trump's presidency, Modi and Trump appear to foster a relationship that extended beyond formal diplomatic protocol, highlighting a unique warmth rarely seen between a US president and an Indian Prime Minister in the past. Let's watch this report by DD India's Akhilesh Suman, how these two leaders have developed bonhomie and how it reshaped relations between the two biggest democracies.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Donald Trump share an excellent personal rapport, which is reflected beyond symbolism. Terrorism is one major ground where both leaders were firm and unequivocal in condemning it. Trump reduced funding to Pakistan on charges of its cross-border terrorism and also because of its support to Taliban in Afghanistan. This resonated well with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi too. Trump's support to Prime Minister Modi's position following the Pulwama terror attack and the Balakot airstrikes was significant instances of Trump aligning with India's stance on regional security. Trump took a tough stand against China and its maneuvers in South China Sea. Trump adopted the name of Asia Pacific as Indo-Pacific. The cooperation between Donald Trump and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi also gave a boost to Quad, or the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, that further underscored their importance in bolstering cooperation and supporting an open, stable, and prosperous Indo-Pacific that is also inclusive and resilient. Both Prime Minister Modi and Trump added a personal touch to the diplomatic relations. The Trump-Modi relationship was marked by large-scale public events in both the nations that symbolized their camaraderie. The Howdy Modi event in Houston attracted record number of peoples in September 2019. Trump's visit to India in February 2020 was marked by the Namaste Trump rally in Ahmedabad. This event, attended by over 100,000 people, showcased the personal and diplomatic ties between the two nations and underscored the symbolism of Trump-Modi partnership. Trump-Modi relationship was also marked by several landmark defense agreements between the two nations. India's purchase of American Apache and Chinook helicopters, acquisition of M777 howitzers, and later of advanced US weaponry and surveillance systems under the Defense Technology and Trade Initiative underscored growing defense ties. Additionally, the signing of foundational defense agreements such as Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement in 2018 and the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement in 2020 highlighted a high trust level. India emerged as a major buyer of American crude oil and liquefied natural gas, reducing its dependence on West Asian energy sources, and also aligning with Trump's vision of making US a global energy supplier. The Indo-US relations have never been better. Thanks to excellent personal rapport between these two leaders, the ties will continue to strengthen and attain new heights in days, weeks, months, and years to come. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
Well, Dr. Jaishankar met Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on Wednesday in Canberra. They discussed ways to deepen the bilateral comprehensive strategic partnership between both the countries. During the meeting, Jaishankar also conveyed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's greeting to Albanese. The minister is on an official visit to Australia from November 3rd to 7th. And India's External Affairs Minister also interacted with members of Australia-India Parliamentary Friendship Group. He appreciated their warm sentiments for stronger political, economic and people-to-people ties with India. Earlier, Dr. S. Jaishankar attended the Raisina Down Under 2024 session in Canberra. He spoke about India's priorities in the Indo-Pacific and opportunities for greater collaboration with Australia and New Zealand. Well, delegates at the International Solar Alliance were introduced to India's innovative agrivoltaics model, blending agriculture with solar energy. Visiting a farm near Delhi, they saw how India is maximizing the use of food and energy. This approach highlights India's commitment to sustainable growth and balanced development. Take a look.
Delegates at the International Solar Alliance recently experienced India's innovative approach to sustainability. They visited an agrivoltaics farm on the outskirts of New Delhi in Najafgarh. Managed by the India Agrivoltaics Alliance, this farm demonstrates India is blending agriculture with solar energy production to address its growing need for sustainable practices. Agrivoltaics is a dual-use system where solar panels are elevated to allow crops to grow beneath them. This approach maximizes land usage by combining agriculture and energy production. The panels are mounted on raised structures with walkways which enable easy maintenance while allowing uninterrupted farming activities. Crops like cabbage are grown between the panel rows using interspace cropping to optimize land. Advanced software plays a role here too, modeling light and shade patterns to ensure crops receive right amount of sunlight, crucial for yield.
You continue producing the food and you're also producing energy. And I've actually been discussing with him and saying, but I think you could even do better. For example, if you used hydroponics, so where you can have different levels of crop, and that would reduce the time you actually take to recoup the money. So it is an appropriate technology. When properly used, you can actually, is also employing a number of people. He's producing food, he's producing energy, he's employing people, and then it fades into his other enterprise.
India faces a delicate balancing act between food security and energy needs. With food demand expected to rise sharply by 2050, the need for farmland is pressing. At the same time, the land required for solar and wind power to reach net zero goals is immense. In the pursuit of sustainability, India's innovative agrivoltaics approach offers a promising path by carefully balancing food and energy needs. India can lead the way in sustainable growth, setting an example for the world in achieving food security and energy independence. With camera person Gaurav Giri, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Najafgarh, Delhi.
And in some good news, snow finally fell on Mount Fuji after the Japanese mountain's longest ever stint with bare slopes, making 2024 year as the latest arrival of snow. Camera footage captured shows a covering of snow on Mount Fuji's peak. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Vipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.